let's talk about a condition where the pain is absolutely real, it's severe, it's chronic, but it's also wildly out of proportion to any kind of original injury. It's called complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS. And in this explainer, we're going to look at it not just as some problem in the body, but as a fascinating and solvable puzzle of the brain. Okay, so what is CRPS, really? Well, imagine you sprain your wrist. It heals. But instead of the pain going away, it gets worse. Much, much worse. We're talking about a burning, unrelenting pain, extreme sensitivity to even the lightest touch, swelling, even changes in your skin color. It's like the body's alarm system went off because of the injury, and then the off switch just broke. The pain is completely real, but it's disconnected from the initial problem. And this is where it gets even tougher. The source material points out something heartbreaking. Because the pain seems so extreme for, say, a healed sprain, people with CRPS often get told it's all in your head or that they're exaggerating. Friends, family, even doctors might not believe them. And that disbelief, it's crushing. It adds this profound layer of isolation on top of already debilitating pain. So this leads us to a massive shift in thinking. A real light bulb moment. What if we've been looking in the wrong place? What if the problem isn't just in the arm or the leg that was injured, but in the brain's actual wiring? What if the brain itself is stuck in a loop?
And this is exactly where things get interesting. We're now understanding that with CRPS, the brain can get trapped in this vicious feedback cycle. It keeps sending and amplifying pain signals, creating this state of chronic suffering all on its own. It's a pain loop that just won't quit.
The fancy term for this is maladaptive neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is the brain's superpower, right? Its ability to change and rewire itself based on experience. But in CRPS, that superpower kind of turns into a supervillain. The brain learns the pain so well that the pain pathways become like superhighways. They get stronger, faster, and more efficient, creating that alarm system that is just stuck on full blast, 24/7. But here's the beautiful flip side to that coin. If the brain can learn pain, well, that means it can also unlearn it. The very thing that creates the problem, the brain's incredible ability to change, is also the key to the solution. We just have to harness it for good. So you've got these two sides of neuroplasticity. On the one hand, you have the maladaptive side, where the brain basically gets really, really good at creating pain. The faulty pathways get stronger and louder. But on the other side, you have adaptive neuroplasticity. This is the hopeful part. This is where we can actively step in and retrain the brain, building new, healthy pathways to quiet down those pain signals and get back to normal. So how do we actually do that? How do you retrain a brain? Well, it turns out there's a whole toolkit of strategies. And these aren't just little coping tricks. These are powerful, active tools designed to get in there and fundamentally rewire the brain's circuitry. One of the cornerstones of this whole approach is something called graded motor imagery, or GMI. And it's as cool as it sounds. It's a 3-step process. First, you start simple, just looking at pictures of left or right hands and feet and identifying them. This starts to wake up the part of the brain that maps your body. Next, you move on to imagining, just vividly picturing in your mind moving your painful limb without any pain at all. And then the grand finale, mirror therapy. You use a special mirror box to trick your brain. It sees the reflection of your healthy limb moving and thinks it's the painful one moving freely and without pain. It's a brilliant bit of neural trickery. Now, it's so important to get this. GMI is not just a set of physical exercises. Not at all. It's a sophisticated way to reboot your brain's entire perception of that limb. You're systematically telling the brain, hey, that faulty pain processing you've been running, we're shutting it down and installing a new, healthier program. And the toolkit goes beyond GMI. There are mental strategies that are just as powerful. Things like mindfulness meditation, which literally changes how the brain interprets pain signals in the first place. You compare that with deep breathing, which is like a direct line to your vagus nerve, telling your whole nervous system to just calm down. And then you add practices like gratitude and self-compassion, which actually fire up the parts of your brain associated with positive emotions, providing a powerful counterattack to pain sensitivity. The brain toolkit also includes something that might surprise you: your dinner plate. The goal here is to fight inflammation from the inside out.
It means loading up on things like berries, leafy greens, healthy fats from nuts and olive oil, and spices like turmeric. At the same time, you're dialing way back on the stuff that fuels inflammation. Processed foods, sugar, refined carbs. It sounds simple, but it can be a total game changer. And let's be clear about why this works. This is not just your standard eat your vegetables advice. Nope. This is a targeted biochemical strategy. CRPS involves a massive amount of inflammation and something called oxidative stress at the cellular level. Think of it like rust inside your body. An anti-inflammatory diet is basically sending in a cleanup crew with powerful antioxidants to fight that rust and calm down the biological fires that are driving the pain. Okay, so we have this amazing toolkit. It sounds great in theory, but we also have to get real about the fact that putting it all into practice can be tough. There are real-world hurdles that can make this journey a challenge, and it's crucial we talk about them. When you look at the whole picture, people with CRPS are often facing a triple threat. First, there's the incredibly high psychological toll, the anxiety, the depression, the isolation we talked about. Second, it's just plain difficult to stick with therapy when movement itself is what causes the pain. And third, let's be honest, the cost of all this specialized care can be a significant financial burden. So how do you tackle these hurdles? Well, let's start with the psychological one. There are real solutions. Things like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which helps you identify and reframe those negative thought spirals that feed the pain. Psychoeducation, just understanding the neuroscience of why you feel this way, is incredibly empowering. And finding your people in support groups, like the ones from RSDSA, provides validation and community, which is an amazing antidote to isolation. Now for the challenge of sticking with therapy. The key isn't to push through the pain, it's to be smarter than the pain. You use gentle, gradual approaches. Desensitization techniques, like using different textures on the skin, slowly teach the nervous system that touch isn't a threat. Pacing is huge. Learning to do a little bit, then resting, to avoid that boom and bust cycle of doing too much and then crashing. It's all about small, sustainable wins. And finally, the money part. This can feel overwhelming, but there are resources out there. Organizations like the RSDSA have patient assistance funds. And remember, some of the most powerful tools in the toolkit, mirror therapy, deep breathing, a good diet, are low cost and can be done right at home. It's also always worth asking about financial assistance policies at hospitals. You have options. So, when you put all of these pieces together, the brain science, the physical tools, the mental strategies, and the real-world solutions, a very clear picture emerges. This journey is about actively, intentionally taking back control, not just over the pain, but over the very brain processes that are creating it. And I think the source material sums up this entire philosophy perfectly with this quote. It says, "This approach shifts individuals from passive recipients of care to active partners in their own healing journey." That's it, right there. You're no longer just a patient having things done to you. You become the educated, empowered CEO of your own recovery. So I want to leave you with this one final thought, and it's a big one. This entire approach is built on one simple fact. Your brain learned how to be in pain. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, if your brain is powerful enough to learn all of that, what else can you teach it? The potential for healing, for resilience, for change, it might be far, far greater than you ever imagined.